Welcome to the Drake Michigan podcast, and today we have the very, very lovely Elyse, who's going to tell us all about her solfeggio. I always pronounce this wrong, Elyse.
Yeah,
solfeggio.
Solfeggio's fine, or solfeggio.
Or solfeggio frequency music. It's all about love, basically, isn't it? So let's get right to it. I can't wait, because we met recently because we had your incredible husband David Ian Rogers with us on, and that's been a mind-blowing moment for us as well, meeting you guys. I mean, what a day we had, actually. You came and we had, 7 hours chatting?
And it felt like 10 minutes.
It
felt like we'd met before. And
exactly,
yeah.
But they're amazing moments, aren't they, in life, I think.
When you meet your soul tribe.
That's happening now, isn't it? That's you know what? Yeah. I know we're going to dive into you right now, but I just think when I had the pub, that's what was happening. People were coming. I'm thinking, this is like it is a hub. It was like that, and I was thinking, the people are coming together because they're meant to come together. Yeah. It's just an amazing
It's a timing thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we met, it was definitely timing.
100%.
Because the amount of people we know. We found out, and the synchronicities are unbelievable, aren't they, really?
But that says everything, doesn't it? It's reading those signs. So that's something I've always struggled with, me, Elyse, is reading the signs that the universe puts in your path. I'm like, I see the numbers everywhere, but sometimes I don't see them, if that makes sense. So anyway, I've digressed, and let's get into your story.
Right.
So,
thank you.
Music, has it always been part of who you are from a child? Yeah, I'd say so. It was more the teenage years, about the age of 14. Although really thinking about it, I must have been about 10 or 11 years of age. And my cousins used to play like Le Chic and really soulful music. Nice.
Also the Police. I used to like, you know, so poppy or anyway, and so it's always been a love of mine. There was a saying within my family, my mum really and my stepdad at the time, that I should have been a DJ, right? And I always wonder about that path, because on a Saturday, so my mum owned a delicatessen cafe. It's like half and half delicatessen and half cafe bar. And I used to work Saturdays, and I used to earn £5. So nice. I'm going back some years. Nice. And I'd serve at the counter, or maybe I was a bit too young. No, I think back in the day, you could do it then. I don't think you'd have to be 16 now, but I was 14, I remember, 14, and had this Saturday job. And the first thing I would do, when I finished work, I'd sweep and mop the floor of the cafe, and then I'd go to the record shop, which was called Sifters. And it's quite well known, Sifters, because Oasis apparently used to go in there because they lived around the corner.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of Didsbury, Burnage end that I lived in, Manchester, Didsbury. And so I'd go to the record shop and I'd look for some records, and I'd just use this £5 to buy records, and I'd go home and I'd listen on repeat all the time, just repeat, because I think when you are so creative, and I'm just speaking about myself here, but this is generalisation, is that would be classed as ADHD, because we just listen. And what's interesting about that is the timing thing. So I can tell you, like, when the chorus comes in and when the beat comes in, and
you feel it.
I feel it as well. And I just know a lot about music for that. I've won music competitions, like quizzes and stuff like that over the years, and just very creative. I love to I used to at college and at school draw, so I'm a bit of an artist as well. That's great. But I don't do that. I don't really do that.
You don't draw anymore?
No, but I'm creative. I the bones of me is creative, so if there's ever a point where I'm not doing it, I'm quite miserable.
I know what you mean. And speaking of record shops, I mean, I love nothing more You know what I mean? I still go and hunt vinyl. That's what I love to do. Wow. Yeah. I there's very few things that for me, like, because I do the way I am, I get more satisfaction of helping others. So I do very little for myself in that respect, you know, in a selfish manner. But getting records is something I
so
took
the 12-inch records.
Yeah. So really? I'm still collecting the vinyl. So I went to Preston recently with my daughter, and like I say, it's very rarely that I'll spend money on myself. I usually spend it on others. Okay. And I thought, sod this, and I spent £100 on vinyl and come home, and I was like,
what did you get? What kind of? Was it 80s, it was actually 70s or?
So I'm very much into classic rock and indie. So, but I come away with 2 Lenny Kravitz albums that I wanted. I came away with the Who's Next album. I came away with a Michael Jackson Bad album, but they were all quality, pristine vinyls. Was what, you know.
Michael Jackson was one of my favourite albums.
The Bad one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was brought up a little bit on that.
No, Off the Wall, sorry.
Off the Wall was brilliant.
Yeah, that was one of my, my favourite. And I just used to listen. Do you remember the first single you ever bought?
The first single that I bought, and I remember the first single I got because when I was small, I was into Adam Ant when I was like...
Me too.
Really? Yeah. So when I was little, it was Stand and Deliver, I think was my first...
Oh my God,
first little 7-inch vinyl was that. But I can't remember how old I was then. I was probably about 5 or 6, something like that.
Really? Wow, you started young. So you really do appreciate music then?
Yeah, I love music. So I was brought up on... so when I just have the great and fond memories, it's all a nostalgia for me. So I can look back and I can be at the back of my uncle's car with Meatloaf blaring away or John Lennon or something, and I can go straight back to those moments. So I have a huge love for music. Yeah. And I mentioned when Chris Crooks was here, I've seen every artist really, apart from 1 or 2 maybe. Freddie Mercury was one that I never saw, but I did go to the Freddie Mercury tribute concert. So. I just love it. But this is, so we'll get to it, but this is where this past 3 years has been a massive disappointment for me, you know, in terms of music, you know, and the musicians, because obviously don't have your idols, do you? I mean, you're told that, but I did have those idols, if you like, growing up. You know, I loved Jim Morrison when I was 17. I wanted to be Jim Morrison when I was 17. You know, I went through all those phases.
And what you're explaining there, and is that how powerful these artists are, how impactful they are on children, and that's kind of what I'm about, really, because I know from my own experience. So the first record I ever bought was Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick.
Yeah.
Oh, what's his
name? I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. And
school. He just passed recently. Yeah,
I can't remember his name, but I do. Yeah.
Anyway, that was my first single, and then same as you know, the vinyls. I think still in my mum's attic, I've still got vinyls.
Lovely.
So I'd love to. I might check those out actually and see, because obviously everything's gone digital now. So
it has, and I kind of. There's something about the experience of a vinyl for me. That's the thing, you know. Like, I think I mentioned it again when I was with Chris Cross. It's the jacket. It's even the smell. It's the whole experience, you know.
Yeah, it's like a book, isn't it? It's either a book
the
or
artwork.
Kindle. Yeah, you prefer the book, the feel.
Exactly. The digital stuff's taken away that experience for me. But now that I know more about the way the music industry is, and I'm looking at the artwork in a different way now, I'm looking at the artists in a different way, I'm looking at the music in a different way than I used to, and it's took the shine off, I'll be honest with you, but I still love the craft. I'll always love the craft, and I'll always appreciate, I think, the people that are involved in that level, but then I now look at them in a different light.
Me too. Yeah,
you know,
they're calling it art, aren't they? And it's clearly not. It's an agenda. That's what I believe anyway. So the truth's coming out in trickles. It's whether, you know, the majority of the public are going to wake up, because it's the children, isn't it, really? They need to have better music.
They do. And I think this is where you come in, obviously. So this is really important.
I'm on a real mission.
Exactly. And, you know, it's funny, we had a conversation yesterday with a guest, and she mentioned a mission. And I felt I've got a mission. So it's like there's something in you that whatever sparked in the past few years for me, it's kind of, you're on a mission.
Yeah, it's quite heroic, isn't it, to have a mission?
I think
it's quite a statement. It's completely normal to me and you, but if you were meant to mention that to just the general public, they'd be like, what are you on about? You're on a mission. It sounds a bit...
think I'm an egotistical, that and the other, but I know that I'm not, and I know that there's just purpose to what I do, and ultimately it's about love anyway. That's what it's about. It's not about anything else. Wow. So anyway, it's all about you. This
yes. So thank you.
From that love of passion and music, did you?
Yeah.
So did you go to college or anything like that?
Not for music, but at school I did take music as part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
And my teacher was called Mr. Armstrong.
Right.
I'll never forget him. Lovely, lovely guy. And what was interesting, in the last year of this school that I went to, it was an all-girls school, Catholic.
Oh, right, okay.
So I'm not Catholic or religious any longer. I've kind of worked
no
it out.
trans then?
No. Oops.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll be careful with that one. What Mr. Armstrong used to play classical music.
Yeah.
And there'd be 5 of us in the lesson, and he'd allow us to put our head down on the desk, and we'd have a kip.
Really? Yeah.
And he'd get done for that nowadays. Whoa. But he was such an awesome teacher because he allowed those moments, because he could see how hectic all the other classes were, and it was a moment just to enjoy that classical, and it really chilled us out, really. I do remember my music exam.
Yeah.
And I sang, oh God, what was it now? The Carpenters.
Oh, yeah.
On Top of the World.
Right, beautiful.
And I sang a Barry Manilow number. Can't remember what that was now. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you that is because he played on the piano. So we were rehearsing for our exam.
Yeah.
And part of the exam, our music exam, was to sing.
Yeah.
And he just said to me, you've got a really good tone for music.
Oh, nice.
So what that means for me is that predominantly in my right ear, I'd say, because I do get a lot of downloads from this right side of me energetically, is that I can pitch a tone. So if you played the key of C, I could pitch it really well. I thought it was completely normal.
That's amazing.
I know, yeah. So if you give me a key, I can normally pitch it. Obviously, I'll be honest, my vocal range isn't like octave wise on a piano. It's not like massively, I'm not Mariah in any means, but I've got my own tone, because you can probably hear in my voice. But he said this to me, which was quite encouraging. But what I did want to say, aside from music and school and everything, so I did really well, I passed and everything.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I was in a park with my friends at the time, and we were on the swings. I was 14 years of age, and there was 2 young lads. There was a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old on the same swings. It must have been like summertime, quite warm in the air, as I remember.
Yeah.
It wasn't winter by any means, and we got chatting, the 4 of us. And we basically were talking about different things. And when we talked about music, and the 18-year-old said, and this is quite a story really, because as teenagers, who does that? Who meets nowadays in a park or a cafe or wherever?
They don't anymore, do they?
No, not really. No, it's all online, isn't it? They probably meet online.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, this kid, I play bass guitar as a hobby. I love it.
Oh, wow.
And the girl who, my friend, said, oh, I've always wanted to sing. And I was like, really? You've always wanted to sing? I never knew that of her, and I'd known her for a few years. I thought, oh, that's strange. So I said, well, I've got a keyboard at home, because I was into music, and I thought, I'll start writing and stuff, or playing music. But it never materialised for me, sadly. I didn't go on to progress in piano or keyboard, because the teacher who came round to the house to give me lessons, he told my mum that I needed a double keyboard, like 2 layers. Anyway, it wasn't meant to be, it didn't happen. So I said, well, I've got a keyboard at home, because I got one for Christmas, you see. So I think I got it for just that Christmas before. So I said, well, I've got a keyboard. So the guy, the 16-year-old, said, well, that's it, then I'll play the drums. So our first band was formed.
Brilliant. What was it called?
Well, the friend named the band. It was called Chantel.
Chantel?
And she named it, really. Yeah, she named the band. And what we would do, so the 18-year-old, he lived in a flat in Moss Side.
Right.
Because he was 18. He'd moved out of home, and we used to go round 2-3 times a week on the bus from Disbury Burnage all the way to Moss Side, me and the 2 other people, and we'd go and we'd rehearse in this room, in his living room, with a set of drums,
excellent,
a keyboard. Those were the days, and so funny when I look back. They were good times. And I always remember We used to have tea breaks, really like builders tea. In fact, you made a cracking brew, by the way. Yeah, thank you.
I don't normally make brews, to be honest.
It's cracking brew. So we'd have, strong cup of tea and chocolate digestives. And that was our thing. And this went on for about a year or two, maybe 18 months, and the band ended up 8 people. So we ended up having a percussionist.
Wow. That's a big band.
It was a big band. We had a lead guitarist. We had other singers. I think it was other singers, because the lead singer ended up leaving. And then we brought other singers in, but we found that no one was committed. Like they weren't turning up. They were young, they were teenagers, turning up on a Tuesday and a Thursday night for rehearsals. I was there, do you know what I mean? I was dedicated and I loved it. And so these other people weren't turning up. So we had this gig coming up on a bank holiday Monday. So I'm 16 years of age, shy as anything, and my hair was a lot longer and thicker. Yeah. And I remember it was at a primary school outside in the outside of this primary school, and the band set up. It was a bank holiday Monday, and we did the show. And I just remember there is a video going around of me with really big, thick hair, and I'm covering the side of my face because I'm so nervous and so shy. I became the lead singer of Chantel, which we then switched names once that lead singer had left. We changed to Low Profile.
I like that name.
So we became Low Profile, but to be fair, it was a bit short-lived. I think they continued for a while, but I left.
What kind of music were you playing?
Oh, it was amazing. Funk and soul.
Nice.
Loved it. In fact, that is the genre, if I'm hand on heart, I would love to have done. Yeah. But I've gone more down the popular route of dance, just where it's led me on the road. Yeah. But what I've learned about myself, Anne, is that I'm very diverse, and I can do any kind of genre, which is quite weird to say, because as an artist, as an independent artist or any artist, you stick to one genre because people know you as that. Yeah, sure. But for me, when I look at my library of work, it's a real collective.
That's really good.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
So where did it lead from there then? So if the band broke up, did you like, because you got the kind of feel for it then, I guess, and you wanted to carry on because you worked so hard anyway. Yeah. So did you do it yourself? Did you form your own thing, or what happened next?
No, I wasn't confident enough to set up my own thing. Looking back, I did audition for. So I'll tell you what happened first. I actually looked to go and have singing lessons. Right. And I tell you why is because, being from Manchester, I'm a bit posh really, aren't I, for a Mancunian accent? It does come out at times. But when you're on stage and you say, "Hi, I'm Elyse from Manchester," I was a bit worried about that because I was gigging. I ended up joining a group, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. So I went for soprano. I went for classical lessons.
Oh, wow.
To learn about breathing, to learn about diction.
Controlling.
Yeah. And the teacher that I had, I mean, these were quite expensive lessons. So I trained as a secretary. I wanted to be a hairdresser or a policewoman leaving school. It didn't happen. I went down the secretary route, which in a way, I know how to deal on the phone and type and stuff. I've been a PA for quite a few companies, when I was younger. Yeah. And what was I saying? So I, what was I saying? I forgot then.
So you were looking to audition, so you had singing lessons.
Oh, sorry. I went for this soprano, sorry about that. Yeah. So, I did that for a year. So it was £30 a lesson.
That's a good,
and it was a lot of money.
Time,
I did it for a year, and God, this woman would have me lying on the floor. She was like in her 70s, and she'd play piano, proper old school, I was like 18. I'd lie on the floor with a stack of books on my chest. Oh, wow. This is how she was teaching, or she'd have you...
Was that for the breathing?
Yeah, to get the diaphragm working.
Oh, interesting.
And so what I learned was Italian, so soprano in Italian.
Gosh.
So I was learning Italian as well at the same time.
That's
so that
amazing.
Was a bit bonkers, yeah. So I did live in Italy for a short time, which is really weird later on. Right. And anyway, this teacher said to me, you're really good after this year. She said, "You're really good." She said, "Would you be? I think you'd make a good soprano." And I was like, "Really?" So she said, "Yeah." She said, "But it's going to take you 10 years to like get really like to do it, to train." Yeah. And I was thinking, 10 years more of this. I want to get out there.
Yeah.
So, and because I'd come from this soul and funk area, classical was really, in my mind, just to learn these techniques and go back out there. So she didn't know that. So I was like, no, thank you. So I joined a band in Warrington.
Oh, right, okay.
I auditioned, had really short, dark hair back then. I had really short pixie hair, a bit like Lisa Stansfield, because she was a bit of an idol for me, because she was into that soul and funk.
And she was from the area in a way as well, Rochdale.
She was local last year, and I thought she was great.
Yeah, she definitely was very
And in fact, I used to work with someone called Mike at an advertising agency as a PA who knew we grew up with Lisa.
Oh, right.
And he said she told that whole group of friends for years, I'm going to be famous and I'm going to be the first white woman who's going to sing soul like Aretha or something.
Certainly,
and she did it.
She did do it. I had a bit of a thing for her, I must admit.
Oh, really? She's so good, isn't she? She's so lovely.
Is she? Yeah.
Well, I've never met her. I know people who know her, but personally, I've never met her, which I would have liked. She's got her own studio in Rochdale, so yeah.
Oh, is she still in that area?
Yeah,
then, is she?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know people who use a studio. I mean, they say it's fabulous. So right. Me personally, I use Airtight. Shout out to Airtight Recording Studio in Cholton. They're brilliant.
Fantastic.
So they've been great to me. So yeah, you want something, it's local and it doesn't, the price is right for me. Yeah. Because it costs money.
100% it does. It's a tough industry, isn't it?
Well, it's a tough industry if you've, this is an area that we're going to go into, I'm sure, the music industry and how crazy and dark it is. And like you and I we discover more, don't we? What's really going on?
What's going on?
Because I did make it in the music business.
Well, this is the thing. So let's get through to that. Obviously, you've got some stories leading up.
I have, yeah. So from there, this is interesting. So in 1992, I was about 20. I was 21 at the time. So just to go back a year or two of that, so I'd finished this soprano education, training, and then I was doing the clubs. So the clubs for people who are in America or don't really understand what I'm talking, you'll get it.
Oh yeah,
but the social clubs like the Conservative and Labour clubs, those kind of places.
Did you do Screen Labour Club in Wigan?
Probably, I did a lot.
Because it was really popular. These coaches used to come all the time. Yeah, but Clubland was big in the early 90s, though. Yeah. It was big.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was massive. Not to the fact it is now that you'd go out on a Friday night, you could do 2 shows, from one social club to another, and on the Saturday you could do 2 or 3 again. And in fact, I've forgotten to mention the wonderful Sheila Gott, because she's been a massive inspiration in my life. And Sheila is an amazing spirit. She's a beautiful soul, and she's been singing since she was 18. Yeah. She's in her 70s now, bless her, and I absolutely adore her. Aww. And she was really was she my first singing lesson, or I'm just trying to place it. Did I go to Sheila before the soprano? I think I did. So yeah, and with Sheila, she'd do like 60s music.
Nice.
Yeah, and she taught me a lot about performance. And in fact, I went out a couple of times with Sheila, and we'd wear these black and white checked dresses with like hats on in black, and we'd sing "Going to the Chapel." We'd sing "Going to the Chapel," all in harmonies. Yeah, nice. So Sheila was great, and Sheila was the original voice of Danger Mouse.
Really?
The theme tune. He's excited.
I remember it well. Yeah.
That's Sheila. Yeah, she's amazing. So yeah, why I'm putting her in and I'm mentioning Sheila is because how this has worked out. This is interesting because when you just don't know, do you? It's a bit like the Celestine Prophecy. Yeah. The book, if you've ever read it.
I've read it, yeah.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Great book.
Great book, yeah. Yeah, the film's a bit naff, I thought, but the
film was like really lacking, wasn't it?
Yeah, the book's so good. The film was like,
Yeah, no, not good. No. That if you So what was I saying about the book? Oh yeah. So if you meet someone that is it's for a reason.
Yes.
You can meet someone somewhere and you're like, sometimes I don't think all
Could
the time.
Be lessons.
There's a lesson or there's a reason. And so what had happened was, because I saw Sheila this week and we were talking about it, and she was asking me how did it actually happen, because I'm going to get onto that now. Yeah. So I'd moved to Germany. I was 21, I'd moved to Germany. And I took my PA equipment, so I had a little PA, and I was a secretary for the Royal Military Police in the army.
Right.
So I was an army wife.
Yeah.
I thought I'd mention that for my sins. That was quite an interesting journey. No longer that. Although they call us dependents. They call
dependents.
Dependents. Very clever of wording, isn't it?
Mm.
So I was in Germany.
Right.
I was doing the odd little gig because there wasn't many gigs in Germany as there was here, but I was still doing gigs for like the sergeant's mess and things, for parties.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I also, so it was about 1993, I kind of I've got this thing, so I'd been gigging for 3 or 4 years, and I've got this thing where it's a bit like Jesus, really, the energy of Jesus, where I kind of throw my hands up. It kind of works for me. It's a bit woo-woo. I throw my hands up and I'm like, God, there's got to be something better than this, because I was getting really disillusioned.
Right.
Because in my mind, I'd visualised me becoming famous.
Yes.
Really powerful stuff, the manifestation, what we can do.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I'd visualised myself becoming famous, and I felt it, I knew.
Yeah.
So I was like, where is it? And I was really struggling at home, I'll be honest. There was stuff going on there. Mm-hmm. And my day job was pretty tough as well. Because I'd consider myself I've always been told I'm older for my age.
Like an old soul.
Yeah, I'm an old soul for sure. Mm-hmm. I've had many lifetimes, and I know some of them. But because I watched your past life regression, which is interesting. It's interesting. So I got into. I completely let it go. This is what you have to do. I think if anyone's out there and they're watching this, is to visualize it, to manifest it for me, and it might work for you as well, is to hold your arms like in the Vitruvian Man. So it's the balance, the wholeness of man. Do you remember Panorama?
I do, yeah.
Well, there's a link to what I'm going to share about my music with that.
Right.
So the Vitruvian Man is, so it's very much square on like that with your legs open. It's the balance and wholeness of man.
Yeah.
So this energy running through us, all our chakras, or energy centres as I like to call them now.
Yeah.
You want to get those as balanced as you can, because we've decided we're old souls, aren't we? We've decided to come in with this past life karma to clear it.
That's
it's
right.
just the souls that we are.
That's right.
So what came after that? So what to say is bring it in and then say, but if it doesn't happen, it's okay, because that's the thing with me. So it's feeling it as well and seeing it, but also saying, but if it's not meant to be, I let it go.
That's really good.
Yeah, because the desire can kind of be a bit much.
I think you can make yourself ill by it as well.
Yeah,
you've got to be careful
when's
with
it happening? Whereas if you let it go and just say, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and if not, it's okay. But I'd really like it to happen. That kind of thing. So I've known that bit for a while, for a long time. So anyway, this is interesting. So I saw somewhere like a newspaper or something in Germany, in the military complex, like on the camps and that, the military camps, because I used to live just outside of them. I've never lived on a military camp. I've always lived outside of them in a community. That's what they do.
Right, okay.
Because they're not going to have it all really in the military camp, because if they get attacked, then everyone's going to be there. So they scatter them around. You live out of camp.
Right.
And I went for a competition.
Yeah.
And it was called Search for the Stars.
Right, okay.
It was around that time, early 90s. Stars in the Eyes, Search for the Stars.
Yeah.
So I went to a place called, I think it was called Bielefeld in Germany. I remember driving on my own one day all the way there, and I was wondering, I wonder how this is going to pan out. I just didn't know how it'd go. So I went, did the competition, and I came third.
Right, that's good.
I came third to a young girl, 16-year-old, who sang Whitney Houston.
Right.
So she was nailing it anyway, because she was 16. They were like, oh, wow, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And a guy, he came first. He was really happy. Obviously, he came first.
Yeah.
But because I came third, what that meant was I went for the finals in Rheindarling.
Right, okay.
Rheindarling is a big camp in Germany, a big military camp.
Right.
In fact, it was that big. I don't know about it now. It had American camp on it, so it had like an American store equivalent to Costco.
Really?
It wasn't called Costco. It was like...
but it's an American store. So
you can imagine, the garden furniture. We're like, oh my God, look at the size of that. The Americans, everything's bigger, isn't it? So big buckets of popcorn and stuff. So that was interesting, because same thing again. I went for this final, and it was so funny when I think about it. there was quite a lot of acts on. There was like 14 acts on, all around, all military or dependents. Yeah. And I remember this guy, bless him, he was singing Lady in Red in a really deep voice. What do you call it? What do you call the male? Baritone. Yeah, I was thinking of something else. Sorry, baritone. Yeah. And it was Lady in Red is dancing with me, that kind of thing. So I was like, wow. So I went to the toilet. Normally, I'm very supportive of other acts because I know it takes hard work and confidence and preparation to get on the stage. It's a lot of that. So I went to the toilet and thought, well, he's not winning. In my head, no, it's not very nice. And why I'm saying that is because he won. He won, right? I came second, but just before I got on stage, I remember the back door was open. It was a nice night, a nice evening because it was warm. The back door was open, and we were struggling. Me and my ex, we were struggling to pay the phone bill and things. We were newly married, maybe we'd been married 6 months or something. And the wedding that I had, the previous wedding, because now I'm remarried to David, which is a completely different wedding. It cost a lot of money. It was like horse and carriage.
Oh, it's
nice
a lot
dress.
Of money,
you know, I don't
thousands
know,
upon thousands.
60 people in the day and maybe 150 in the evening, and it was at a big venue in a Catholic wedding. The priest was like, yes, Catholic, 2 Catholics, here we go. You know. But I should have known things were a bit not right anyway, and I won't go into the full story because my first marriage, the guy had H-E-L-P on his boots. So his best man had Tipex H-E-L-P on his boots when he knelt down. So,
wow.
Yeah. In fact, it was me that needed the help and not him.
That's madness.
It was crazy, wasn't it? It wasn't nice, really. So, that's been a whole different experience, which I don't
But it's part of your growth, though, anyway, isn't it? These bad experiences are part of the growth. So.
Yeah. And maybe, who knows, if there's a saying that we choose our life before we get here. So,
absolutely.
Crazy as I am, but I'm a bit of a warrior. I kick ass a bit.
Soul contract.
Yeah, I am a bit like that. I'm a bit feisty. I'm very determined.
Good for you.
Yeah, and enthusiastic, as
Good
you can probably tell.
Yeah.
So, just before I go on stage, I'm really nervous, right? I'm here on my own in Germany. It's either it's make or break, and I came third in the semi. So God, what am I going to do here? And I'm also thinking, well, I could really do with some money to pay the phone bill. Because I was always phoning back home because I missed my family.
Home.
I missed home. And I'd speak to my mum back then every day, not so much now, but I was very, very young at the time. And I look out and I do the same thing, and I'm like, God, or source creator of the highest order, please, if this is meant to be today, I'm talking in my head here, if this is meant to be today, then let it happen. And if it's not, it's not, but I'm going to really enjoy it. So I kind of prepped and I set it up. Got on stage, I sang 3 songs. I remember one was Gloria Estefan, 1, 2, 3, come on babe, that one. And maybe it was 2 songs actually. It was sometimes the snow comes down. That one. So I loved, anything soul-y, that was me. And I had this bright, black dress on, but with all these funky illuminating patterns,
cool.
like neon. I love neon. Standing out with my really short black hair. And I just went for it.
Nice.
Anyway, what happened was at the end, the compere came up. He was lovely. And you know what he said over the mic? He said, "It's a fix." Seriously, he said, this woman should have won. Right. She should have won, pointed to me. He said, it's a fix. He said, she won by a mile.
Right.
And I know, I was like, whoa. So that was my first experience of competition at that level. And it was quite something. The girl, the 16-year-old who sang Whitney, she came third.
Right, okay.
She was gutted.
Was she?
Because, she being 16, people I think, in the music business, they see a young kid in the music business, they go, yep, she's got it, and not the fact you're a little bit older and you've done more experience, whatever, they just go off that, but it goes off a number of things. It goes off the dress, your character, competitions are like that. It's not just the voice.
No.
So why I'm telling you this story is because I found out later on the panel of judges, so the guy who won was RAF.
Oh, really?
So they weren't going to give it to a dependent, a civilian, or a wife of.
No.
They gave it to the RAF guy, I suppose, looking back. And I found out that he had relatives on the judging panel. Cheeky. How crazy is that?
None of it surprises me either.
So that was back then. They've been doing it,
Yeah, well, even at that level as well, where it shows. Yeah.
Crazy. That was my first experience of like competition. So from there, on the panel was, so there's a radio station around the world, it's called BFBS. Have you heard of it?
No, I don't think
it stands for British Forces Broadcasting Station, BFBS.
Right. Okay.
And they had an office in, I've forgotten where it was, it's in part of Germany, and one of the DJs was on the panel. Mm-hmm. So me being a PA secretary, I sent him a typed letter. It just popped in my head one day in work to type this DJ a letter and say, hi, I met you at such an event, would it be possible I could come on your show or whatever? I could write jingles because I was into writing.
Right, okay.
Because I'd written with Chantel and Low Profile. That was my thing, you see.
Yeah.
Which, going back again, I thought everybody could do.
Well, they can, though.
But yeah, it's a gift that I have, right? It's my zone of genius. It's what I love to do. Yeah, I can. It's like writing a poem, but with a song. If you played me any track now, I'd get the verse, chorus, the bridge quite easy.
Love it.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah. Really something. So so BFBS. So what happened was, I've still got the letter. It's in a big scrapbook that I've got at home, because I was given the letter back. I don't know why, but the DJ that I approached, he actually replied back and said he's on holiday these certain dates, like 2 weeks or something. Passed me on to another DJ called Andy Wayne.
Right, okay.
Right, he was a DJ, the 12 o'clock slot every day, Monday to Friday, on BFBS.
Yeah.
Right, and this radio station would go out all over Germany, and there was a lot of troops over there then. There's not so much now, but back then there was many troops, many military.
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing jingles for him. And I changed, like, Mr. Vane.
Remember
the song from the 90s. I changed it. It's just a little jingle, and it goes, call him Mr. Reader, call him Mr. Raw, call him. So it ended up, I know what you want, but it ended up, and like, Mr. Wayne, because it rhymed with Vane. And then, so that was good. And I remember hearing that for the first time. It was on the following week or something. I was like, oh my God, I'm on the radio.
You got a bit of a buzz.
Got a buzz from that. And then a few weeks later, so Andy really took to me, him and his wife at the time, Naomi, really took me under their belt, and they were like, wow, you're really good, and I was like, am I? I've come second in a competition, I mustn't be that good, that was self-doubt kind of thing. Yeah. And they're like, no, it's your personality and you've got a great voice and everything. So this is going to just be so mad now. So anyway, I'm thinking that there's nothing happening, that was that. Maybe some time had passed. Yeah. Nothing's happening again. So this is when I called out this prayer kind of thing, this wish. And then all of a sudden, I think Andy, I'm trying to get the timing of it. Andy messaged me and said, I've got some good news for you. Yeah. Come into the station. I was like, right, okay. It's a good few months after. So I go in and he says, sit down, I've got some good news. I was like, right. He said, I've been talking to, I think he said Sony.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, really? Yeah, I'm sure it was Sony, not EMI.
Right, okay.
I'd have to ask him, actually. I'm friends with him on LinkedIn, although he's completely gone off the music scene. Yeah, he doesn't have anything to do with it now. It's good 35 years ago. It's a long time. People have moved on. Yeah. And so he said, come in. I've got this offer to put you on the table. It's a solo deal.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
I absolutely crapped myself. I was like, right. I thought, what does that mean? Not knowing what I do now about the music industry. Yeah. Very interested in if I'd gone down that route, because clearly I didn't choose to go down that route. And in that same week, so he's like, have a think about it. But I'm in talks with them on your behalf. I'll act as your agent. Right. And, we'll draw up a contract and we'll see, and it'll be like an album deal. And I was like, oh my God. So that kind of happened from there. That was that.
That's exciting.
Very exciting for a young 22-year-old.
And it's what you were asking for.
it was what I was asking for, totally.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that saying where it comes in threes?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this kind of came in two.
Did it?
There is such a thing. Yeah, because that same week, I got a phone call from Berlin.
Right.
And it was a guy called Bruce, let's call him Bruce, yeah.
Yeah.
Who had a hit in the 80s.
Right.
Ex-military.
Yeah.
Living in Berlin.
Yeah.
So I was living in a different part of Germany. I didn't live in Berlin right at that time.
Yeah.
Well, I've never lived in Berlin since, but I'm just saying. So Bruce was like, we're looking for a singer for our band.
Right.
The same week, right? And I'm like, right.
Options.
Yeah. Your old singing teacher, Sheila Gott, she has mentioned to a friend of ours, because we've put it out there, we need a girl singer for our band.
Amazing.
We're already in the charts with a song.
Right.
It's doing really, really well.
Right.
And we need a front person. So if you're up for it, would you send your demo tape? I had my jingles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd done some stuff in the studio as well. So I had some songs with the band I was in.
Yeah.
Bio, typed it up. And in fact, looking back, when you do a CV at such a young age, it's quite limited.
Well, it will be.
Nowadays, it's like, pages full. But when you're young, it's like, I did put in some, because I was a secretary, I could do that, and photos. Right. So I was all it was my pack, really.
Cool.
And I remember sending it off to Berlin.
Elyse's press pack.
My press pack, yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So I sent it off to Berlin, and that following week, so I'm still deciding whether to take this solo deal and everything at the same time. And they come back and they say, we want to fly you to Berlin.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay then, right, okay. So they fly me to Berlin. I stay at Bruce's, and his girlfriend was there, and they put me in the spare room, and I'll never forget, it was satin sheets.
Oh, gosh.
Because Bruce has got quite a story, really. He was famous in the 80s in a band, him and his best mate, who was also ex-squaddy, ex-military.
Right.
And they had this #1 hit in Germany called Geil.
Geil.
Yeah, it was a really massive hit. Right. So he was well known, and I didn't know this, and I'm staying with this guy, and he kind of mentored me, really.
Yeah.
So, I went and did this what is now the second single of this 90s EuroDance group that I'm with, called MAXX, MAXX, and I decided, it was a bit of a big decision, really.
Yeah, you had that choice between two.
I mean, what a dilemma.
I know.
Solo.
What made you choose, do you think? What was swaying that?
I'm going to be really honest now. I knew how cutthroat the music could be.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew that. I wasn't really stupid. People had told me it's very cutthroat and be very careful. I didn't really know what that meant. I knew it was in business, but as an artist's point of view, I didn't really understand. I felt like I would have more of a team, being part of a group, rather than solo. I felt so alone, when really, in hindsight, I might not have been.
So there's more of a comfort blanket for you. Was it a confidence thing then, you think? Or?
Yeah, I do. And plus, if I'm honest as well, I didn't want I'm quite a private person, but then I'm not. I'm kind of like a conundrum in that way, because...
But it's nice to have company, though.
Yeah.
You don't need to be all alone. But I had company
they were German. So they didn't speak much English. This is how it panned out. And I didn't speak much German, and they didn't speak much English. Right. So, but it was kind of guaranteed. I think...
Yes.
I think you're right there. And it was a confidence thing. Like, would I really do it on my own?
Yeah, but there's always fear in everything we go through,
it's a choice, isn't it? It's that fork in the road.
Yeah.
Do you take that one, or do you do that one? Yeah. And I chose to... I remember I was in the bath, a bit crazy, really, and I cried, because it was such a heavy decision on my head.
It's a big one, yeah.
It was life-changing, life-changing. And I went with the group. The group was a massive experience, massive experience. I did sign a contract.
Yeah.
I did approach so I was fortunate enough, because one of a big manager, a music manager, had approached me. He actually put a note through my door in Canada. I was doing a 10-day tour of Canada at the time. So we'd done mainly Europe and stuff, and then we'd gone over to Canada. We were going to go to America, but that's another story for another day, maybe, I don't know. And he put this note through my door, and I freaked a bit. I was like, oh my God, how do they know my room? But it was the 90s. Obviously, you couldn't do that now. You'd have to leave it on reception. And it was, I should have kept the letter, really. It was a lovely written letter. And he wrote this letter saying, I'd love to manage you and the rapper. Oh, wow. Gives me a rapper, you see, a German rapper. Yeah. How about it? And, stuff like that. And he helped me in the end because he helped me find out what was really going on with this German group, the back end of it and how all logistics and business-wise it worked. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of people involved with their fingers in the pies, let's say, and that's how they named it. So, the contract they gave me, the guys in Berlin, so the music producer put me on to a music lawyer. This is where the business side came in. Yeah. And it cost me, I think it was a lot of money back then. It was a couple of $100 for her to look over it, and it was £1,000 30 years ago. Wow. To check out this contract, £1,000 back then. So God knows it could have been. She was one of the main ones in London. Yeah.
If you're enjoying everything that we're doing here at Drake, Michigan, please subscribe, ring my bell, and let's enjoy this journey together.
And they'd been going years, and she said to me, if you sign that contract, I guarantee you in 2-3 years you'll be one unhappy girl. Right. And she was right.
Wow.
She was so right.
Yeah.
So the music business really did cut me up and spit me out, really. If I was to show you my diary of that particular year of 1994, I did Top of the Pops 3 times within a year. Mm-hmm. Within a year, because Wet, Wet, Wet were on with Love Is All Around. I don't even remember
It was the biggest hit that year, wasn't it?
They were on for like 52 consecutive.
It was off number 1 forever, was it? I think didn't they stop selling it in the end? Thought it was stopped just getting it out of the shop because it was.
Well, I did meet Marty Pello in Top of the Pops in the back, because obviously we went with our first single, we went with our second single, and he's still there, number 1, and he was really fed up. Yeah, because he was constantly being there. I think he was a nice guy. He was so friendly, so lovely. I've met a lot of the stars. I remember being on Top of the Pops, and it's a really small studio, or it was.
Is it?
Yeah, what they do is they have these, say there's 4 stages, and in the middle they have like a pool of fans. Mm-hmm. Say they have like 50. I don't think there's many. Yeah. And so the fans run to that stage you're on, and then when the next act's on, they run over, so it looks bigger than what it is. Yeah. But the time when I did Top of the Pops, it was all live. Yeah. It was the time where people wanted live. And looking back, I think what had happened was, in the 90s predominantly, there was a thing where they would have girl singers and male singers as well, and they wouldn't be the act that would be performing. So it was like the voice, it'd be a different voice of someone. Okay. It was very common. Right. So people were a bit fed up of it, really, and they wanted to hear the real voice. Yeah. But they didn't know the background I'd come from.
Right, okay.
So I was trained, wasn't I? I'd done my training, I'd done the social clubs. So when I went on stage and did Getaway, I mean, it's 134 beats a minute. It's very fast. Dun, 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 so I was like, out of breath. And I remember I was quite nervous. And
I bet you were.
I was talking to the security guy before I went on stage. We'd done the rehearsal. And there was cameras everywhere. So they were on like the little... arms like this, and there was one camera, he was on like this chair, and it was going up and down and over, and cameras everywhere. And I remember I went to the phone box, and I phoned Sheila, and I was like, Sheila, guess where I am? She's like, where are you? I'm like, Top of the Pops. She's like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I said, can you give me any advice? She said, tell me what's going on. So I said, there's cameras everywhere. Yeah. So she said, oh, great. She said, what I want you to do when the red light comes on top, I want you to look into the camera. So when I got back and I did it live, I was like overkill. I was like right into the camera, like following the guy up and down. I think they were a bit fed up with me, really, because I was really into camera, and I learned how to then work with the camera from that moment, really. Fantastic. But I got talking to this security guy, and I was so nervous, and he's like, he's from up north. Yeah. I was in London. It was the BBC. Yeah, I was in London back in the time. And he said, you're all right, love. I just needed, because I'd been touring with this German group. Nobody was speaking English. Mm-hmm. To me, really. Yeah. And I was missing home again. Of course. When you come from the north, we're very like that, aren't we? Well, from UK, from anywhere. And he said, hey, have an extra strong mint. Oh. So we had a bit of bonding, and then I was fine then, went on the stage, and I did that.
Did you smash it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, it's still going out there. Anyone who's interested, they can find it on YouTube.
Brilliant, I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
Any stories, BBC... Top of the Pops presenters. Yeah, you don't need to name anyone, but
no, presenter wise, I wasn't privy to anything that the dark side like that. Thankfully,
it is one dark establishment.
I have got a story that I've recently popped up in my head. And I think this was a test. This was the part one of the tests, and I never realised.
Right.
So we'd gone back to the dressing room. I can't remember if it was the first Top of the Pops or the second time I was there.
Yeah.
So I'd gone back to the dressing room, and there was me and the rapper, and these young kids walked in. I'd say they were quite young. So I was 22 at the time. They were about 27, quite hip looking, trendy looking at the time. And 3 of them walked in with a camera. One was a presenter, and they knocked on the dressing room door and they said, would you mind taking an interview? We're from, I can't even remember where they're from. Maybe it was like a teen magazine or somewhere.
Right.
So I wasn't prepared really. Really, my agent or manager should have said, yeah, we'll sort it out. But they just kind of appeared from nowhere, which is kind of the case now, I've found out.
Oh, really?
So what was interesting, Anne, was some of the questions they were asking me were kind of personal.
Okay.
Really personal. And one of the questions, and I'm just going to say it because it's the truth, they asked me how I lost my virginity and what age I was.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know about that. You're making me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now when I look back 30 years later, I'm like, I get it now. But back then I kind of put it to the back of my mind.
Right.
But it's kind of resurfaced recently. Because I was like, how did I, being in the music industry, in the music business at such a big level, doing Top of the Pops, having number ones in Finland, in Greece. Oh my God, we were number one in Greece, in Europe generally. And in UK, we nearly made number one apart from Wet, Wet, Wet.
Wow.
They kept us from being number one because they say if you get to number 3, you're going to go to number 1. If you get to 2, they say, I don't know why, it's harder to get to 1. It doesn't make sense really, but back then, because we'd got to 3,
probably fall back if you were 2, wouldn't you?
They'd just probably leave you there. I don't know what was going on. So from 3, we were kind of expected to get to number 1.
Yeah, and sadly, Wet, there forever.
Wet, Wet, Wet kept us off with both the first and the second single.
Really?
Yeah, they were still there. Yeah,
with the same song.
With the same song. That's why Marty was really. Oh, you're back again. I was like, yeah, we'll come back with a second song.
So funny.
It's hilarious. So yeah, I did meet a lot of famous artists. I met Ant and Dec outside the makeup room. They were so nice, very, very pleasant, very friendly. I met Alison Moyet. I remember I met her at a show actually. And
she's a character.
She's lovely. Yeah, she's lovely. So as I'm on stage this particular time, I look over on the second stage, and we were first up. So it's live. It's being recorded and everything. Oh, sorry, it wasn't live. It was recorded to go out the next night or something.
Yeah.
And I look over to the next stage, and I'm just about to sing No More I Can't Stand It, which is our second single.
Yeah.
And Level 42 were like that.
Oh, wow, cool.
So I remember in my head, I'm going, oh my God, it's Level 42 over there. Because I love Level 42. Yeah. And in fact, this was a moment past, maybe this was my third thing. Because as we came off stage at the end of it, they were next. Came off, Mark King came over, and he was like, wow, you're really good. I was like, thank you. And he introduced all the band to us. Nice. This is such a body. So I introduced him to my rapper, really lovely guy. And he said, I'd love to work with you.
Oh, wow.
And I went, really? Wow. He's like, yeah. He said, yeah, let's talk up. He said, I've got plans to do some work. He said, and I'd love you on board. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I came out and I was like, I've not got his address. I've not exchanged any numbers.
Yeah.
It's a moment passed.
Yeah.
And ever since then, kind of soon after, I tried to get in contact with him through his management, but they weren't budging. They weren't.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's not happening. Now, that was a moment where...
strange how life is sometimes, isn't it?
That was past, really. Yeah, so that was another moment. And then, I just toured Europe, really. And then we never got to go to America. We were offered. I found out recently, the last few years, that Clive Davis wanted us for America. And it didn't happen. There's reasons behind that I won't really go into. But, it didn't happen. And in a way, I'm okay with that. Now that I know what I know about the music industry, I'm pretty okay with that.
So just before we get into that, because I can't wait to get into that, I must admit. So what genre of music is it? So you got a rapper. Is it because the 90s was very... There was a good club scene in the 90s, wasn't there? And you sort of old school and whatever. Was it anything like that?
No, it's they call it EuroDance.
EuroDance, okay, yeah.
So it's called EuroDance. It's like your 2 Unlimiteds.
Yeah, because they were popular, weren't they?
Yeah, they're still going.
Are they?
Yeah, still go. Yeah, they So now I do 90s festivals all around the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, two of them. So it was all right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
No, they're E17.
Is that E17?
They're still going.
So what is that 200? No, that's the one. Yeah. That's it, I remember it. So it's that kind of genre of music.
That kind of genre. So it's quite trancey, I'd say, EuroDance.
It was very popular though, wasn't it? Because they're the years they were my drinking years. So they were my clubbing years, if you like. Well, I was very much into my rock music, but I used to be. My friendship group were very much into the club scene.
Yeah. So, do you remember Getaway then?
I'm not sure. I bet you I will.
Okay.
If I'll hear it, I'll remember.
I was going to ask you actually to maybe when you edit this video, if you can put it in.
Can we do that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then we will. We will definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got some videos, but maybe you can grab something.
Let's do that.
Just a little snippet.
Yeah.
I don't know
we'll definitely do that.
That'd be great, so that people can see what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
The before and after.
I wasn't sure it would be allowed with the sort of copyright.
Well, I've got the rights to the name and the rights to the music, meaning I can go out and gig.
Yes.
And I'm in contact with the original producer of MAXX, who still lives in Berlin.
Oh,
and I work directly with him. So anything that I need to find out, I go to him and say, is this okay? So everything's fine. And because they collect royalties. Well, he has a company that collects royalties because YouTube's gone crazy on that, which is great because it monetizes it, and it also keeps it fair for the people who originally did it.
Yeah.
And
we could even start the podcast with a song, maybe.
Ooh, maybe you could use my Love Energy stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that in a bit. Let's do that. We'll decide.
Because it's royalty based, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
When in that period of time, then, Elyse, were you thinking, right, we're going to make this? I'm going to be a superstar now.
With the MAXX, it happened so fast. Well, to be fair. It didn't. Initially, it didn't. It was a good few months before we were kind of waiting. And I remember making a phone call to the manager that we had at the time. And I said, oh, my God, this is... I was still working as a secretary, you see, for the RMPs, the Royal Military Police.
Right.
And, I was kind of waiting. I was like, oh, this is really weird. And it'd gone up the charts, this first song. And then he said to me on the phone... Take a deep breath, he said, because once it starts, I promise you'll be begging for a day off. Right. I remember him saying those words to me. And he was so right, because once it did happen, that's what I said, I had a diary. So we'd go to like Amsterdam for 2 or 3 days and do a festival there. And then we'd go straight from Amsterdam to Greece for 4 or 5 days.
What an experience, though.
Yeah, we'd do TV interviews, radio interviews. I remember one day I did 15 interviews in one day. It was brutal. It was common though to do that.
Did you have pride in yourself at that point, in terms of like, were you proud of what was being achieved at that point? Were you thinking this is just amazing, or were you just level at that time?
Yeah, I was. I thought I was really. I always said to myself I'd be really level-headed because I come from the north, come from a family or whatever. No, I was so disillusioned. Hey?
Were you loving it? Or?
I loved it, but when I look back, those 18 months or 2 years that I was thick in it, I got quite poorly.
Did you?
I got
Were you overworked?
I was overworked, and looking back, I think if the manager had just taken us out for some time out, like they do now, they take a bit of time out.
But it's all about money, isn't it?
That's what happened. So we were just puppets, really.
Yeah, of course.
That's what it was.
It's quite interesting. So there's big stories, isn't there? I mean, Elvis Presley being one of them, and Michael Jackson's another one, isn't he? And you see
the fact that
they push so hard, aren't they?
They did that to us. So I ended up with a band of psoriasis all around my head here, and loads of eczema and psoriasis, and I had this really short dark hair, so you imagine it was a real problem for me, and I'm fair. So and then one morning we had a photo shoot booked, and I woke up this morning, I was in Amsterdam, and we'd just done a show the night before or whatever, and I woke up the next day, and the tour manager phoned me, and he said, or he texted me or whatever, I can't remember what we had back in the day, how he would do that, or he phoned me on the hotel phone, and he's like, are you okay? We've got this photo shoot in an hour. I was like, I can't do it. And he's like, what? I have to cancel everything. I was like, I'm really sorry, because I had all this red raw eczema all under my eyes here.
Oh no.
Which in a way, I did get to the end of that. It took me some years to get rid of that, but because I looked at my diet, really as well. And so now that I'm at the age that I'm at,
you can analyse things as you get older. You start looking at yourself a bit more, don't you?
It's done me well, because then at that such an early age, being in the business, I've learned how to look after myself in the business, really, because it is tiring. People don't realise, I think, and they say, "Oh God, she's saying she's not." I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that for me to go on a gig, I've got a few gigs lined up this summer with MAXX, which is fantastic. I absolutely love it. I've got Czech Republic in May.
Brilliant.
I've got Belfast. In fact, I'll give a shout out to them. It
all
do helps.
So
It's called 90s Explosion. It's a big 90s festival.
Fantastic.
People turn up with all
the 90s was great though.
Oh God, I love it.
Great?
Yeah, it's so much fun. In fact, you know what? I'm enjoying this time more
than
that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Weird, right. That, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love meet and greets. I love meeting the fans.
I bet you do. Yeah. That must be a good buzz though, when you're still getting recognised.
Yeah, I love signing autographs, having photos with them, because everything's just gone social media. So photos, videos, it's just gone through the roof, really. Yeah,
lovely.
Love it. So 20th of May is 90s Explosion in Czech Republic, Prague. 24th of June is Biggest Disco in Dublin. So anyone who's coming out, big shout out to Biggest Disco, because they've been really supportive as well. And 90s Explosion. And then there's a festival that's called Vielska, and it does or We Love Heroes. It does a tour of Denmark and Sweden. They do quite a lot of every year. They do these events. I don't know if they do 7 or 10 shows between Denmark and Sweden, and we've managed to get on 3 of the Sweden ones.
Fantastic.
Amazing. So I'm doing Stockholm on the 8th of July, 15th of July, Gothenburg, and then Helsingborg the 22nd of July.
Superb.
So it's So what I'm trying to say is that when for me to prepare, get my stage stuff ready and everything, because I dress really powerful, I think. I didn't in the 90s. I kind of wasn't guided or mentored properly in the 90s. There was no one to really say, oh, wear this, wear that. I didn't have a look. I used to wear a lot in black and white because it was just comfortable, and I used to cover up a lot. I've never been one for underdressing. It's never been my thing. I'm quite body conscious over the years. And so
I think thoughts keep coming into my head. You make an incredible mentor.
Yes,
you?
Thank you. I have taught, and I have taught over the years. I've been a vocal coach, and I've taught students in college.
So I'm thinking my daughter's sort of an aspiring, if you like. She's singing. She was in a band recently. She played bass. Wow. Long story short, but they let her go. There was a female singer, and I think there was a bit of jealousy because my daughter, she's quite a good. Anyway, it's my daughter. Okay. I'm going to be like that. But sure. she was lighting up the stage. Let's put it that way, because that's her personality.
Okay.
But
she's a natural.
She is. She's always from 2-year-old. She's been on stage, so she's always been doing stuff. But she's into musical theatre as well.
Beautiful.
So does
she write her own stuff?
No, but she's capable.
Okay.
And she's doing music at the moment at college, so she has a passion for it, and she's seen all the bands as well. She's like, it's like mini me in that respect. I drag her around, but she's also like a mini version of her mum as well, because her mum's she's a tutor at the college for drama. So
she's got all those skills.
She's got all those skills. Yeah, and she loves it.
I have taught children. I do enjoy it, but I could do that.
But I think the guidance alone, the wisdom, because when you go through what you went through, like kids.
It's gold dust, isn't it? Because kids want to hear that, because it's like, wow, she made it, she did it, and I'm still doing it.
But also the pain involved as well.
The what?
The pain that's involved in it.
The pain.
Watching out for things as well.
The pitfalls. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the fact that you were pushed, so you were pushed hard, so you've ended up with psoriasis, you've ended up stressed out.
I was.
And nobody's guiding you, they're just pushing you.
Yeah, nowadays I'm very mindful of the health. Yeah. When I go on in my dressing rooms, they call it a rider.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So you're in your dressing room, most acts will order champagne or wine or beer, or Jack Daniels, I know a guy who orders, or whiskey.
Yeah.
For me, because I'm travelling through the airport and I carry light anyway, rucksack and a little carry-on, I'm a light traveller. I think that's due to my army days, being a military wife. You kind of learn how to pack things. It's a funny thing. That's coming useful, actually. I didn't realise that. So for me, in my dressing room, I have green juice. That's my rider. Water, nuts, salad or vegetable if there's not
good for energy and
I'm a veggie as well.
Yeah.
I'm not quite vegan. I haven't really mastered that yet, but you know, for a majority of my life I wasn't, so I'm not doing I'm doing okay, let's say. So I'm veggie. Don't eat meat or fish or dairy. Yeah, kind of, yeah. So
great.
Yes.
Great. So from that moment then where you fell ill, what happened from there? Did you
so what we're looking at now. So rewind to kind of the late 90s, so 1998, 99. So I'd moved back to the UK at this point, and I joined a girl group.
Oh yeah.
Just local, and I started doing the clubs again.
Right.
So I kind of like, I'd done the clubs, hit the big time, and then I felt like I'd gone backwards again, but I still had my hand in it.
Okay.
Because we used to drive this van, and we called it Vinny the Van, big white van, and there was these two other girls, and we had a roadie called Keith. And so we travelled like a bit of the UK, and I remember we went down south and we did a military base.
Oh really?
We did I think it was like not the SAS, but it was Navy. But anyway, and they were like crazy, like stripping off, like some of it on stage, mad things. I was like, oh, not sure about this. Then we ended up, how weird is this? We ended up going over and getting a week tour of Germany, the military bases. You couldn't make this up, could you? So I went back round.
How strange.
Very, very strange. Isn't that weird?
Life is like a cycle though, isn't it? You go through cycles.
And the woman who was part of that competition, Search for the Stars, was the booker. You couldn't make it up. So she knew me.
So funny.
She knew me. She was like, oh my God, you're back here again. I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, but you made it. What you do? I was like, yeah, enough story. So that's kind of that happened. So that was like late 90s. And then something happened, and I won't go into, and it wasn't a very nice ending.
Right.
But maybe the two girls will say otherwise, because I can't speak on their behalf, but maybe from my own experience, it wasn't very nice what they did to me in the end. But I think they were jealous. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, because I'm not here to say, so I'm speaking on my own experience, because it wasn't nice.
You're standing in your own truth, don't you?
I'm standing in my own truth. And what that did, and if I'm in all fairness, from the experience of the music industry and how it ended, because I didn't tell you how MAXX kind of ended at the time, and if any of the MAXX fans are listening, they'll be like, oh my God, juicy gossip, because it's not something that I'm going to put on social media, you know. But basically how MAXX ended was, we were hitting the big time, let's say. I say hitting the big time, when really, why is that the big time? That can be the big time, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So for a while I've been holding it there, really.
You're on the cusp though there, aren't you?
Yeah, so that's kind of what was going on there. And so this guy approached us in Canada. He was with a group called, I think they were called the BG Prince of Rap.
Okay.
I think he was a manager for them at the time, and he came up to me outside the dressing room in Canada, and he's like, oh my God, you guys are amazing, you're really famous. And I'm like, yeah, we're doing all right. And he's like, no, he said, you're doing brilliant. And I'm like, are we? Because business wise I'd never talked that way. And he said, no, you are, you're doing brilliant. He said, let's put it this way. He said, we've had a number 8, I think he said, I can't remember. You've had a number 1, a number 3 UK, number 8 UK. That's how our singles went, and a number 21. You're flying. He said, out of interest, how much are you earning? So we started talking figures, and it turns out that he said the price that we were on, that I knew we were on, I'd been told we were on, he was on that price. He said, I'm telling you now, you're not on that price, you're on double, triple that. And I was like, oh. So it's like my whole world fell. I thought, oh, they're screwing me over. So from that moment, something had really changed.
Oh, you know what? I hear so many stories.
So the music industry. So I'd experienced that, and then I started to like really shut down something. And then another thing as well happened in Sweden. We'd gone over to Stockholm because there's a guy over there, a lovely guy called Giovanni. He owns Remix Records, and it's like a publishing company kind of thing.
Yeah. And
he'd worked with the main guy from MAXX to really make MAXX successful. So it was really Giovanni that had made MAXX successful in Scandinavia. Big shout out to Giovanni, because I met him recently at a show after like 28 years. It was so nice to meet him again. Lovely, lovely guy. And when we got to the airport, Giovanni said to me, because we'd done like a few shows back in the 90s, he got to the airport and he said, right, just to let you know, because my ex, he came that week to Sweden with us. And he said, just to let you know, I'm paying for his flight. Don't worry, it's all covered. and paying for his flight.
Okay.
And we were like, oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. So a couple of weeks later, I'm doing this show. The tour manager comes up to me. Now, what I'd been saying, show me the contract, because I was getting, the more famous I seem to be getting.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest that, you know, I always said I'm going to keep my feet firmly on the ground. Mm-hmm. The ego is a bugger, because it came up and it kind of bit me a bit.
It's a challenge, eh?
Yeah, it popped up because, and I was getting a bit big for my boots, you know, I was, But I don't know. Is that fair to say? I don't know. I'm being a bit hard on myself.
I think
I was becoming more famous, and then the more famous I was becoming, the more insular, like I wasn't trusting people around me. It's a funny thing, fame.
I think it's interesting as well what you're saying, because then I'm looking at the things that pop into my head then was the past few years, for example, I talked about the fact that these heroes of mine let me down.
Yeah.
Now, if their egos are at such a point, and money, it's all about money and this, that and the other, then they've gone, haven't they?
Yeah.
You think
you're indispensable. It's a funny feeling. It's not nice, and it's one I wouldn't like to experience again. That's why I'm enjoying it more this time.
Yeah, now. I can imagine, because obviously you're in touch with your soul. A lot of these people are not, are they? They're just living that 3D fame, fortune kind of.
Yeah, well, when fans see you, you know, I was getting letters through my door. People find out where I lived. So I wasn't feeling, you know, I was getting letters through my door and people were going crazy. Like at one of the military dues, the wife's military do, everyone was putting, there was like a Christmas card on the table of the setting of where you were eating your meal. And there was a blank Christmas card, or it said like, you know, Merry Christmas from the Sergeant's Mess or wherever. Everyone was sending down their Christmas cards for me to sign.
Right.
And then they wanted me to sing, and I'm like, no, I'm just to enjoy myself. And then I found out one of my neighbours was selling Avon through me.
Oh, goodness me. So it's everyone's having a piece of you.
So, that's what was happening. So I was really feeling it.
Taking all your energy, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what happened. So I needed a break. Looking back, I needed a break, but it was full steam ahead. It just kept going and kept going. I was absolutely exhausted. So what happened was we had this gig. Didn't know it would be the last gig we ever did, because the tour manager came up to me and he gave me my wage in cash. That's how it used to be. So I went like this, and I knew he was undercutting us anyway. So I went like this, called him back, and he said, what? I said, there's only half the money here. He said, yeah, because of the flight your husband took.
Oh, yeah, which he promised to pay.
No, he took it out my wages. So I said, no, Giovanni's covering it.
That's right, yeah.
And he's like, no. So I said, no, Giovanni's promised to pay for the flight. No, you pay for it. So I was like, yeah, I know that's normally the case, but in this case, Giovanni. Yeah. So there was this bit, I thought,
he's having you.
He's having me again. Not only has he got me again, he's had me again.
Yeah.
So cut long story short, that was the last gig we did. It kind of, we had a big fallout behind the scenes. Yeah, it kicked off. And then I was offered to go solo, and I've not mentioned this really because my birth name's Linda. I know I'm using the name Elyse now, Elyse G. Rogers.
Yeah.
But my birth name's Linda, and I changed my name 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Because I got into name analysis, and you know, just from a creative point of view.
Yeah, but it alters vibration as well, doesn't it, and a frequency.
Absolutely. It's all Hebrew, isn't it? All the letters. But I didn't know that I was going to relaunch MAXX. I think I would have, so the fans, the MAXX 90s fans know me as Linda.
Yes.
And they're getting used to this new name Elyse, and it's fine, but as a solo independent artist, the name Elyse kind of suits me better.
Yeah.
So everything is in Elyse, my passport, my driving licence, so I am Elyse, but just to mention that.
So MAXX is back. So
MAXX is back.
When did that happen then?
2016. So 2013, I was approached by, this is how long it's taken me to get it back out there.
Yeah.
I was approached by a booker in the UK. He tracked me down.
Right.
And I think it was, 2000. So it was just when I was changing my name.
Right.
So they'd seen the name Linda Meek. And then I changed it to Elyse.
Yes.
Elyse Rogers. And they probably thought, oh my God, we better get hold of her soon. So, because I got a few phone calls at that point. But yeah, he tracked me down, or he emailed me, swapped numbers, he phoned me, and he just like, we want to get MAXX. We've been trying to track you down for ages. I was like, really? We'd love to get you and the rapper back out. If you can get the rapper, the original rapper, and you can get the name, the original name, you've got the rights to the name, and maybe you pay a percentage to the owners or whatever, it's up to you. He said, then we can do it. So I then got in contact with Bruce, the original guy from MAXX who've made the phone call and say, send your CV and all that, put me up in his house or his apartment.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you get hold of the original rapper? Because I knew they worked together in the studio, because I'd lost numbers by that point. But I managed to get hold of Bruce, and he's like, yeah, we'll do it. Well, I think it's a great idea. Let's get MAXX back out on the road. Well, the rapper knows about this. Boris knows about this, because I have spoke to him about it. Yeah. And I just said, I was waiting. Seems to be the thing with some artists, really. You can get promised dreams, and if you're not careful, 6 months or 12 months can go and you're still waiting.
Yeah, sure.
I've done it a few times. I won't do it again. I won't do it again. But back then, this is what I did. So I waited for about 6 months, maybe. 2014, in the April, I get a message from a MAXX fan saying, have you seen the original rapper? He's out with a new singer. So they kind of backstabbed me, really.
Oh, dear me.
So they went out with a different singer, and he'd done this nightclub, and I was like, hello, I'm here. What's going on? So I was like, okay, it's clearly they don't want to work with me. So I had a bit of a cry. And David said to me, my husband, my beautiful husband, he said to me, what are you crying for? I'm like, but look, they're out, and I was meant to be me. This is 2014, and he's like, but you're better than that. You're so much better than that, you know. Anyway, if we're going to get quite spiritual and woo-woo here, which I'm prepared to do, because I think your channel warrants
all about
that.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, I get, like I said before, down this right side, I get channeled through. So you could call it like spirit, source creator, whoever, or spirit guides. And so I asked the question, you know, what's happening here? Maybe the day after, I was like, what's happening here? Like, you know, this person's gone out. Is that it? Is MAXX over for me? You know, am I done? And the message was like, the message I got back was, he's going to go first. I was like, right. They meant the rapper. This was what they said. He's going to go first, and it's going to take, basically, it's going to be 3 years. So like the message was, he's going to go first. I'm like, who? Oh, the rapper. Kind of worked that out. 3 years. What's 3 years? Because it's like a little, what's the word? It's like that you have to put the pieces together. They're not going to say it's going to be 3 years.
Yeah,
it's like 3 years.
It.
Yeah, you have to kind of, they can't tell you everything, can they? Kind of thing. That's what they say. So I'm like, 3 years. So the message was, I deciphered it as it's going to take me 3 years, and then I would do it. So I was like, okay, that's a bit weird message. And what happened was, it was exactly how it happened, because then I did the Mind, Body, Spirit fairs around the country.
Yeah.
I mean, literally around the country. I do Olympia, you know, all the MBS Mind, Body, Spirit fairs, the festivals. And I'd sing live on stage, and I did my own stuff as Elyse.
Right, okay.
I went to Scotland. I was around Cheshire, doing all for 3 years. And then when those 3 years were up, I was fortunate where I had this guy approach me from America.
Yeah.
I've got big aspirations to go to America with my music, because I just think the Americans are ace as well. They're just so ahead of the time, that this guy approached me, and we got chatting. Really nice guy, lovely guy, Brandon in Washington, DC. And he's really good on the computer. He's IT tech guy. And he's like, do you need any help? And I was like, he said, go on, you know, I'd love to help you. I'm a big 90s fan, blah, blah, blah. And we became good friends.
Yeah.
And he did a Wikipedia page for me.
Oh, nice.
And it got to the point where the MAXX part on my Wikipedia page, he messaged me one day and said, would you mind, because I've come to the MAXX, your history and Wikipedia, if I contact the guys in Berlin? And I was like, good luck with that one, you know, because they don't speak to me, kind of thing. That's how it was. I think in hindsight, and I can ask them this question, maybe they thought that I'd done a runner, you know, back in the day. I was exhausted, and they thought that I finished MAXX, you know, that I was part of that. Maybe they had a bit of bitterness towards me. I don't really know why. Who knows, and who really cares? So anyway, so what happened then? So where was I up to with
So what I'm thinking now is that so you've got MAXX back at that point, but you're telling me that you were doing Mind, Body, Spirit Fest, and you were talking spirituality. So now now I'm going, okay, so what's going on here? Because you must have some spiritual stories to tell me right now that you did.
I do.
How do you come about having guides at this point or before then? Where's your first woo-woo moment?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Ant. Woo-woo moment. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Woo-woo moment. I've had loads of woo-woo moments. I like that woo-woo moment. I had one just before I met David.
Yeah.
My husband now. Yeah. That was an amazing experience how we met.
Go on, tell me.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Does everyone want to know?
Yeah.
And that was, what year was it now? This is 2010. No, sorry, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of missed this bit out really. It's really important because I had a dentist accident.
Right.
Okay, so I swallowed a drill burr at the dentist.
Yeah.
I know. Pretty shocking.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to go back and do my singing. I was struggling doing singing actually because the passion had died, the desire had changed.
Okay.
In the belly, this fire had really died down. That's all I knew. And in my head, every time I went to practice with my equipment, I'd do the first verse. I couldn't even get to the chorus. Something in my mind would go, you're not good enough, not today. And I'd just stop singing. So I knew something was wrong.
Right.
So during the years of 2000 and upwards, I became a bit of a workshop junkie. So I got trained in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Cool. I got trained in EFT, the tapping.
Yeah.
I got trained in personal development, really, big time. Yeah. I was always on a course. I was working in the day, running my mum's business, a cafe little business. I was having a bit of downtime,
Yeah.
And I was doing that. So come 2007, I had this accident.
Right.
And everything just really shut down. Okay, so I was really not singing.
Yeah.
But 2008, so I'd gone back to college. I'd met this amazing lady called Tina Redfern, and she was getting funded. She was working for a company that was based in Manchester that got funding to help people like me. And I had a one-to-one with her in a little cafe bar, and she said, "Why don't you go back to college?" And at the time, I'm like, I'm a bit too old. And she's like, no, go back to college. I suggest get a qualification. It was the best thing I ever did.
Right.
So I went and got this qualification. So what that means is I can run workshops.
Super.
I could have continued to be a teacher and got qualified, but I didn't want to be in the system because I kind of had a bit of experience of how bad it is behind the system and how crazy paper filling in and all that. I did end up teaching 14 students at Music Base in Newton Street in Manchester, which is now part of, I think it's BMI or something.
Oh, right, okay.
Or Access to Music. Anyway, and it was part of that, and I was asked to stay on, but I kind of pulled away from it. But those were the best moments for me, working with those 14 students, and I'm happy to say they all passed.
Brilliant.
They all passed. And it's because of my passion as well and my teachings.
Sure.
So I had this accident and I wasn't singing, but weirdly enough, I was teaching other people. And then it was just before then that I was...
Good timing. We'll carry on.
Carry on. Well, that was, so I was driving... so this particular day, so I was working in my mum's cafe.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to college, teaching, and I was studying. So I had a lot going on. There was a lot going on for me.
Yeah.
I was a bit tired. I was up at 5:30 most days to run the cafe because I had to open the door at 6:30.
Right, okay.
I was doing all these other things. And anyone knows studying can be quite taxing as well,
definitely.
quite tiring.
Yeah.
And I remember driving home one day, and all I can say is that I had this vision again from this right side. If you ever had a vision...
only in meditative state. I've not had it sort of like the way you're describing. So It's quite interesting where you...
Yeah, so it's like in your mind's eye. It's like I'm driving, I've got my eyes open, but it's like I've got my eyes shut because I can see this vision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a L-shaped. Mm-hmm. It's in a football dressing room with wooden benches, and there's royal blue shirts hung on coat hangers on the hangers. Yeah, right. And I'm driving down the road and I'm going, I could see in this vision that somebody with short hair, but I'm growing my hair at that point, it was about here, say.
Yeah.
And someone with short hair was delivering EFT to this football team with the back to me. And my reply to this vision was, that's not me. I'm not delivering EFT to a football team. I'm singing. So it was like I was owning the singing.
Yeah.
I'm doing music. That's not me. And it was really weird. And the vision went, I thought that was really, really weird. And the following day in work, we used to have a customer. So in work, in the cafe, it was quite family run base, or it was like the staff had been with my mum for like 20 years, 30 years. They were, we knew one another inside out. We knew all each other's children and families, and we were really close. So it was a close knit family. And what was interesting was, I was saying about me being older than my years. I found that the conversations for me, because I was so out there, I was researching. I've never had children, so everybody else had kids, so I had more time on my hands. Right. And I found that if anyone came in and wanted to talk about Reiki or energy or EFT, I was there. You know, I was practicing NLP in the workplace. Yeah. So if someone came in and they were screaming, you know, because customers can really drain you or they can uplift you.
Definitely.
And it was a really busy cafe bar.
A lot of energy. Yeah.
So one guy had come in and be like this with his hands, 5 sugars, and he was in a rush because his van was outside. 5 sugars in my coffee, make sure you put 5 sugars, and he wanted it in a certain way, the milking first and all that. And you're like, oh my God, and he was so busy. So I'd match him and go 5 and match his energy, and it'd be a laugh. So I was using this NLP in the workplace. But this one particular day, this guy came in, I'd not seen him for a few years, called Tony. And he came in and he's like, hi Elyse. I was like, hi, how are you doing? And I found myself sat at the table, one of the tables, which normally, you know, I wouldn't be able to do. I was behind the counter serving. And we got chatting. He's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm okay. I'm, you know, separated now. I'm having a bit of time out on my own, single, loving life kind of thing. Well, I'm doing a lot. I'm studying, blah, blah. And he's like, all right. He said, you should come to this thing we've got on Thursday. Maybe this was the Tuesday. And I was like, right. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be really good. We're going to talk all about Reiki. And I hadn't done Reiki. I've done level 1, I think. But it's not really been my calling, to be fair. So I was like, right, okay. So what was really weird, Anne, was I found myself going back to the kitchen door. But I was pulled back to the table. It was the weirdest thing. I had work to do, but I just maybe just needed to chill for a minute. Chatting. And I love talking to people like Tony, because a conversation like yourself, I mean, I'm going back all those years ago. You know, people didn't talk like that back then.
So you were pulled, you were drawn to.
I was drawn. I was like, I need some nourishment. I need some great conversation here. Let's talk Reiki. Let's talk energy. And he's like, yeah, you've got to come to this Reiki night. So I was like, I'm so busy. I've got college. I'm working here. I've got college. I've got this. I'm teaching. And he's like, no. And then I went back to, and I was like, no, it was like Spirit was saying, get back to that table 3 times. So when I got back to the table, I was like, okay. So he said, no, you've got to come. So I said, who's going to be there? She said, there's going to be Alison, whose house it is, going to be Rona, it's going to be me, it's going to be such a body, and Dave's going to be there. He's done EFT to a football team. Right. So I was like, I think I better come. So that was my experience. And then David's experience is kind of similar as well. He had a thought in his head was to phone Alison. I don't know if this is true, but for me, it's like 3 times. If you get it 3 times, you know it's not you, unless it's your higher self. But it's like Spirit or someone's saying.
Interesting.
3 times. So he phoned Alison and she said, oh, we're having a Reiki out on Thursday. He turns up, and then that was just mad how we've met. Yeah, it was just divine. Every clairvoyant or medium has said mine and David's meeting was very divine.
And very much needed.
It was, and, you know, we've been really tested, definitely tested, like, because we are really powerful beings, because David obviously clears trauma, and here's me now with my love energy music, so.
Okay, well, let's get into that. So you've gone into this sort of situation, mind, body and spirit, so you're singing. Is that when the frequency music was starting for you then, or were you doing different things then? So
there was a government initiative called Sing Up, all for the Olympic Games in 2012, and there was like, I don't know if it was £15 million was spent in England, not Scotland and Wales, for people like me. So divine timing again. I'd done my training at college, so I kind of qualified as a freelance vocal coach for some of this funding, and it was really well paid to go around. And I found that I had like 5 different freelance jobs. One of the jobs was working with young mothers and babies, which was interesting. So I'd go and teach young mums and babies, because Sing Up was an initiative for the Olympic Games to get all primary school children singing, because they knew that it helped diction, especially with foreign people coming over, like Polish or I don't know, we were coming into the country. Even back then they were coming in more so. It would help them with language, and also that music helps bond mother and baby. So there was all these projects and I was part of that. But one of the main projects that I had was at one of the councils, and it was within mental health.
Right.
So I'd go every Wednesday for a 2-hour session with these young adults who had mental health challenges, okay, and they were in the system. So maybe they were medicated, and some would come with carers and stuff like that.
Yes.
And they'd walk in and they'd get me. And every week we would sing songs for the first hour, and the second hour we'd creatively draw or colour. We'd have pens and stuff like that. They were all supplied and everything. And I remember this was a real massive turning point for me. I remember it must have been about 2011 at this point. 2011. I came to this meeting, this session, and I prepared the songs every week, not knowing that one particular song would change it all forever. Right. So the song was "I Can See Clearly Now the Rain Has Gone." Yeah. Jimmy Cliff did it. Yeah, and it was done in the 70s, I think, and then it was redone by Jimmy Cliff. I think that's how it went. Right. Was it Jimmy Cliff who did it? Anyway, it's been redone. It was in Cool Runnings, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
Great song. Yeah. Lyrics very, very positive. And I remember we were in the circle and we're singing this song, and one of the girls who was singing, I'd give them a sheet of music, the lyrics, and she was singing and her whole body was rocking forward. So remember, I'm trained in NLP, right? So straight away I'm like, wow, that's a good sign. And she's rocking forward and she's saying, can we do it again? Can we do it again? Can we do it again? And I'm like, of course we can do it again. Yeah. So we end up doing this song about 2-3 times. And on the way home from that session, I was like, wow, what was that? I get back to my room. I'd converted like a room into a music kind of room, one of my rooms at home at the time. So I had a PA equipment with speakers and everything. I
think they're fitting something on the side of the building.
Oh. Wow, okay. All meant to be. Yeah. So what was I saying?
So you got your music room. Yeah.
So this was still at the point where I still wasn't singing. The mind was saying, although this is why I did NLP, to try and override it. I was like, how can I shift this? So I got the mic, put my PA on, sang a few lyrics. I was like, still not working. Oh my God, I still believe that I'm not good enough. What is going on here? I remember. Same thing again. Yeah. I'm stood in this music room and I'm going, God, please help me. Source creator of the highest order. What is happening here, guys? Please come forward. Please show me. Yeah. I know you can communicate with me. This is a spiritual bit, right? So what I did want to say, I have had a few experiences where spirits come through, or people who've passed over on the other side have come through. And I've not known what to do with it. Sure. And to be fair, what I've said to them or whoever is, please stop, because it's not my calling. I don't want to be going to someone and saying, I've had a message from your son. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't feel
it's
that.
Not your place. It's not my. You don't feel it's your place.
Yeah, so I kind of nipped it in the bud there. But but when it comes to myself, I will call out.
But you're a light, aren't you?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
We are light. We're energy, aren't we? We're light. So light beings.
Yeah, so they're going to come if you're open and you're shining brightly. They're going to find you, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That's another story, isn't it? They know that when we're born, don't they? They know our light. Right?
Is that right? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that.
I've seen that somewhere. I've read it, or I've seen it. It
doesn't surprise me. I think I had a conversation. I'm going to be editing it next week. It's a really interesting conversation. Okay. And it's about the reality we live in with this guy called Lawrence Wright. A fantastic conversation. And he said there are only so many divine lights.
Really? Is that the 144,000 then?
Well, my understanding is that's a frequency, not a number of people. Right. But he said there's only so many divine lights, and then the rest of it, what you'd class as NLP, sort of the non-playing characters.
Walk-ins.
And distractions, and they're trying to distract you from getting back home.
So we really are in the Matrix, right?
So it's the Matrix,
Oh my God, that is
it's really interesting conversation. Anyway, so you are a light. You are a light, aren't you? So they are coming to you because they feel they can get a message out. Yeah. But obviously you're saying it's not your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Is someone on the roof banging?
I think so, yeah.
Someone's nailing.
And I'm not going to edit it either. You're going to hear the banging.
Yeah, I can hear the banging. There we go, yeah. So, they will not stop us.
No, they're not stopping
we'll
us.
We'll keep going.
Exactly.
So,
Okay, so we've
done this. Sorry, frequencies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is how we're getting to the frequencies, right? Because around 2011, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm asking out, and I was shown or told, again, cryptic,
right,
that because I asked the question. It's always good to ask questions, actually, because the universe is just going to give you the answers. Always ask a question like a what or a when's not so good, or a why, but a what. What do I do about this? How does it get any better than this? It's access consciousness. They use a lot of questions in there, and they've just kind of got the questions. The questions have been going for years, obviously, but what they're saying is, in quantum physics, if you ask a question, the universe is going to show you, whether it's in a registration plate or you meet someone, and it's going to give you the answer. Signs. Yes, ask a good question. So I'm asking the question, why is pop music, so dark lyrically? Why is it so bad? Hands up, I used to write, if you look at my sheets of music, I've got books full of songs that I've written, and they're all about lost love, rejected love, looking outside of me to be loved.
Right, interesting.
Nowadays, I don't write that because of this moment where I was like, why is it like that? The whole system from the top down is set up like that to disempower you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it? That 100%. Was a moment. So then I was shown, I said, what about if I do it? I'm going to do it. Please use me as your channel. Please come through me. If I'm meant to, same thing again, if I'm meant to be doing this going forward, if it's going to unlock whatever this is here that's stopping me, then I will be that. Yeah. And you know what they said? This reply was all here on the right side. It said, whatever it was, in fact, I might give it a name. I'll work on that actually. But it said, there's going to be this energy that comes down to the planet called the love energy.
Whoa.
I'm getting goosebumps on that.
And I just had it. Yeah. Boom.
And it's going to filter down very gently. It's going to take some time. It's not going to come straight away.
Yeah.
In fact, I read a book by Drumlo Melkedich.
Right.
He writes about this, how in the pyramids there's all these different frequencies below, and they've cut it off now. You can't go there anymore.
Interesting.
And he actually talked about, so maybe it was my subconscious, I don't know, because I don't know if I'd read The Flower of Life, that's what it's called. I think I've still got that book, where he talks about this energy being flooded very gently into the planet, because if it wasn't gentle, then our heads would explode because we're energy, we're light,
of course.
So it has to be this way, and that's why it's so hard for us, because we're really having bursts of the Schumann resonance changing,
of course,
these KP levels. I don't really know what they mean, to be fair, but this energetic level. So I was shown that the planet was going to be flooded with this energy. That was 2011.
Wow.
And I then decided that I was going to write an album called The Love Energy. So I knew that at that point. That was a moment. And then soon after then, I discovered a frequency called 528. That was my first frequency, by a guy called Len Horowitz, based in Hawaii.
Yeah.
He's a really interesting guy. He's been missing for a while, and he's gone down some rabbit holes. And I think, I'm only speaking from what I've observed, because he's been missing for a while. I think he got targeted.
You hear a lot of that, don't you?
Yeah, because of that. Because what happened was the 528, let's say the 528 movement, which is part of the Solfeggio, and I'll go into that in a minute, the 432 gang, as I like to call them, they came out at the same time and started. There was some people who were calling 528 or calling these set of frequencies, and I'm like, what does it matter? They all work, because I personally have had experience with these frequencies. So I've been in a room, I put these frequencies on my PA very lightly on a tone, like that of whatever 528 is, and it's changed the energy in the room.
I can totally understand all of that. I mean, it's only sort of like last year when I went through a period where I fell ill after the pub ended and things, and I went through a period where I was trying to figure stuff out and self-heal, if you like. So I started looking at frequencies.
Did you?
Yeah, at that
point.
Which
ones?
Well, first of all, I got hold of a Rife machine and a scale and things like that. So I started going, well, what's this all about?
Yeah.
And then we got the iTerra wand, which is a terahertz one, so we got one of those as well. But then I did Reiki as well, so I started doing Reiki. So I started getting. So what is this all about?
Yeah, was there any particular frequency on the Rife machine? Does it show you the frequency, or does it show you what it's healing?
They're all so there's a database basically of certain ailments, if you like, or conditions, or things you might want to help with, like chakras or whatever. And I think then it's sort of programmed for that particular frequency then to send out. Now you can send that out remotely as well, or you can sit in between these scaler kits. So you've got the scaler and the frequency.
Have you heard of Healer Machine?
Yeah,
the little Healer machine.
We had a guest on last week who was showing. She had this little Healer machine, and she was showing us.
I was given a spare one to use for a week, and me and David used it. That was quite interesting.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. It does work, but why personally? Because of the mission that I'm on, I'm not going to start promoting healing when I know I can do it in a different way. So
yours is music.
Yeah, music. So what I've created now is I call it digital healing tones.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I work with the so how the solfeggio came about. So let me just go on. So 432-528. There's this in-house kind of external fight. It's all on Instagram and Facebook at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm going, why are they? So I wasn't going to put my neck out there because I didn't want to get involved in all that drama. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to create music. So I knew that I was going to produce an album called The Love Energy, and I knew that it was going to be in 5-8. That's all I knew.
Right.
And then just to go off that a little tangent, and I won't go more into it, but I got into the common law kind of situation.
Yeah.
You call it common law, straw man, freeing the land. I know all that. Don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's another story for another day, maybe. But me and David got involved with that, and it was more me, really. To be fair, I did a lot of research and
a passion of helping people, I think.
Because I'd had this dentist accident. That's how it came about.
Interesting.
The solicitor had sent me. The first solicitor I had sent me a letter, unsigned, for £7,000, 2.5 years into my claim. Let's say, no, we had 3 years. Really naughty, and all of a sudden said we can't help you, and they'd done F all. And charging me this big bill where I'd done most of the work because the woman was off on maternity leave. And anyway, cut long story short, I fell to my knees in the hallway. David came in the hallway and he's like, "What are you doing? Get up." And I was like, "Oh, I've got this bill." Fear had just overtaken me. £7,000, you know?
Yeah.
All those years ago, it was a lot of money that for nothing. It's a
massive amount of money.
I was like, no. I went through this. So anyway, found myself a better solicitor, and then I started to play the game. But
understanding the game. Yeah.
But you wouldn't believe what happened in the end. It took me 7 years. I ended up selling my house because they were coming after me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I sold my house, I got out, sold everything. And there was a lot of reasons as well. Because I wasn't singing, this was telling me I couldn't sing. I was like, what if I just reset? What if I just start again? And that's basically what we did. And we went around the world. We went to different countries.
Wow.
And we ended up in Nepal. David was teaching maths and English, and I was teaching music to the young babies. And that's where one of the evenings it unlocked. So we're in the Kathmandu Valley. I think David shared this story when he was on, and we're in the Kathmandu Valley, and the host who we were living with at the time, staying with, the young children, they put on this show of beautiful dancing and singing and their traditional songs, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet, so nice. And then they turn to me and David and they go, right, it's your turn.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, I'm like, I'm not singing, but David's like, yeah, she's the singer of the family. And I'm like, oh my God, he set me up. Oh my God, where can I go here? So I ended up singing Blessed with Love. So at this point, where I'd agreed to this Love Energy album that, I was going to do it and this was my mission, Love Energy album, I ended up, being channeled through 3 songs, and those 3 songs which are now on the album is Just Be Yourself, Blessed with Love, and Love Energy, part 1, because there's another Love Energy on the album, and that's how that transpired really. And I sang a couple of those and maybe some other songs, and the next day at school all the children came running to me, and I didn't know this, but how the valley goes, the whole valley had heard me sing.
Wow.
So there was no getting out of it. So when we returned, they were like, Miss, was that you who sang last night? And I was like, yes. And they're like, oh my God, that was you singing in the Valley last night. How sweet was that? So when I got back to UK a few months later or whatever, I went straight into the studio and I started to do this album.
Fantastic.
And then I've got so many stories, so sorry about this.
No, you can tell us.
This, I got talking to this couple who were very spiritual. It was at a spiritual event. It was on a Sunday. And I was chatting with this couple and the event organiser came up and he said, sorry to interrupt, can I just have a word with you? And I was like, yeah, fine. And he said, I've heard that you're singing at the MBS fairs. Would you like to come and sing at our event? Right. In next month? And I was like, well, actually I've got a gig that I'll do the month after, so we agreed that, fine. And as I turned bound to the couple, he said, I'm sorry I overheard your conversation, what is it you do? So I said, I'm a singer. And just to come back on this little story, actually, when I was at the recording studio starting this album in 528, that's all I knew. I said to the producer, he's like, what? I'm like, I need to get this album tuned into 528, because at that point I didn't really know enough about 432 at the time. All I saw was like these people were saying 432 is better than 528 and it was crazy. So I just knew it was 528 for me. And so what happened then? So I was driving back from the studio one day and Alan had said to me, as I was leaving, do you know how many tracks you want on your album? And I'm like, I haven't even thought of that, Alan. He's like, have a think about it, So I'm driving down the road and I kept getting told the number 9. And I'm like, what's number 9? What do you mean number 9? And then it dawned on me, 9 tracks.
9 tracks.
Is that it? Yeah, something like that. Or number 9. So when I met this guy at this event, he said, you singing? I was like, yeah. He said, I'm looking for a singer in... I said, my album's going to be in 528. And he went, you're joking? And looked at his wife. I'm like, oh God, what have I said? And he said, you do know there's 8 other frequencies, don't you? I was like, what?
Right.
He said, it's called the Solfeggio Frequency and there's 8 more frequencies. I was like, oh, that's where the 9 comes from. So that's how the 9 happened.
Interesting.
So then I knew. So I went back to the studio. I was like, can you put it in solfeggio? And he's like, what? So then this is 2011.
Wow.
So we started to make, I think I was one of the first.
You must be,
to put an album into the 9 solfeggio. So each of the tracks is not in the general 440.
Yes.
The producers tuned it in such a way, modified it, that each track's in 174, 285, 396, 417, 528.
They all have their own different kind of I won't say properties, but the benefits to an individual, don't they?
And what you find with this album is really interesting. So I sell it on digital copy on my website, which is ElyseMusic.com, a digital, and I also sell hard copy, which I've got in my bag, and I meant to show you on camera really, but it's in my bag there. And the physical copy, it's got a 12-page booklet, and it explains all about these energy centres and how this pop music, with me singing on it, and all the music and everything's been tuned to these different frequencies. So by track 9, track 1 is at the first frequency. By track 9, you get this euphoric state. So it's very uplifting. And I still get people today saying to me, oh my God, I always listen to your album for upliftment. I listen to it in the car. Because not many people use CDs anymore, but they do in the car maybe. Or they use Spotify and Deezer. It's on all there, and it's called Love Energy.
Fantastic. And that's how well, we'll get all the links in the description.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I think it's amazing what you've done. So there's not many that's doing what you do then in that
They are. I don't think they're doing the solfeggio. They are with the tones, but they're not doing pop music in solfeggio. And predominantly now people are using 432, and I am using 432 for like singles or EPs. But if I'm going to do an album of 9 tracks, it's going to be the solfeggio.
I love it.
But 432
That's
as well,
amazing.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I love it. I'm so proud of that fact. In fact, I've created in 2020, I've been talking about it for years and years and years, about doing an online course called the Love Energy Frequency Program.
Superb.
So I've created a program called
You're busy then.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I am. Really
so what's the plans now then? You've got all this going on. Obviously you're touring this year.
Yeah,
are you going to continue MAXX?
Yeah, I'm going to continue MAXX because I love what I do. I find it so easy to do. I absolutely love it. I was talking before about how people think it's so easy, and it is easy, but you know, you have to pace, you have to look after your health. Because, you know, there's so much involved, getting on flights and flying 2 or 3 hours or 2 flights, get a connecting flight and running for that next flight. You know, that adrenaline's high. Then you get to, quickly, I'll just tell you about 2020. What happened in 2020, I had a few shows and they all got cancelled.
Of course.
I had 15 shows that year. And they all got cancelled apart one. And it was a show in Bulgaria, which when I look back of 2020, Bulgaria were like not playing the game proper way.
Good on Bulgaria.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have every year the Spice Festival. So yeah, my rapper, things happened and I ended up doing a solo show on my own.
Oh, right.
And if you look, I took 7 flights. Yeah, It was mad. They wanted me to wear masks and it weren't happening, so I had a few run-ins there. I did have an exemption card because I wanted to breathe.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah,
being a singer's would be helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. So I did have a couple of run-ins there, but I managed it as far as I could. I had like a scarf and a hoodie, you know, just whilst on the plane. It was quite scary, really. But I took 7 flights in 26 hours or something. Wow. I did a solo set of 30 minutes. I did a radio interview, TV interview, and I got like 3 hours sleep. That's what I'm talking about. That's the level. But for me, I manage it really well. Yeah. I do manage it well.
You must enjoy it.
I absolutely love it, in terms of future, MAXX is fantastic. Love it. Love the fans. I'm now starting, so I've got Instagram and Facebook, social media.
Well, send me all those links.
Yeah,
we'll get them all out
But
there.
what I did want to say was I'm kind of like getting more confident now with social media. You know, these young kids, they just know how to do it.
Of course they do. They're born with it.
Yeah, Instagram, I'm interviewing people. Yeah. So I'm getting all the 90s artists, a few of them who want to do it. So there's anyone who wants to be interviewed, and we're doing Instagram lives.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm starting. I've already started 1 or 2, so that's it, and that's to give back to the 90s fans, these artists and myself, and show really who I am. And
love it.
You know, so that's
exciting times.
Very, very exciting. And then the Elyse brand, Love Energy Music, that with the online course, I'd love more people to join the course. Yeah. It's a 9 or 10 modules. So it's 9 modules, 9 weeks, and then a bonus module, 10 weeks, and that's all sharing with the 9 solfeggio and 432. And it goes through every week, goes through a different frequency.
It sounds incredible.
Yeah, and that's the future, really, the Love Energy brand. I brought out a first album, as you know, and I've got a second album that's coming out this year.
Would you tour the Elyse brand as well?
Absolutely, I'd love to do that. That would be my goal. I've got a tour manager on standby. Right. She's in Scotland and she's very awake, like us.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and she's waiting, really.
Perfect.
So now I'm kind of like, what I'm doing is I'm getting the MAXX fans to really know who this Elyse is, because her name is Linda. Yeah. And then I'm going to bring out Elyse more. That's my plan.
Excellent.
And then merge it and transition it, maybe. And then, you know, go off with it. Love Energy is the future for me. That's the future of positive music's the way forward. Absolutely.
You're a superstar.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone listening. Thank you to you. And
you're going to sing for us, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we'll do this again sometime. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll not see this won't be the last we'll see of Elyse. I know that for a fact. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Please subscribe. We need your subscriptions. Thank you.
Bye.